Good evening. We're very excited to be here. I am Allie's mom. I know it was advertised that it was going to be Allie sharing, which she is, but she opted for the interview style, so she is really at my mercy. She might regret this. No, but I am very excited to be interviewing Allie and to have her share about the journey that God's been taking her on. And it's a journey that I have had the privilege to participate in for 28 years, and a journey that I've had the privilege of praying for. So I'm going to let Allie just start out and share a little bit about herself and where she is right now.
Yeah. Well, hello all. It's great to be here. I actually grew up going to this church, so this is super fun for me to be back and see this beautiful chapel too. But yeah, I grew up here in Wichita, went to Mays. Rebecca Aiken was actually my small group leader for like a large portion of my life, so shout out to Rebecca. But from there, I ended up going to college in Anderson, Indiana, at Anderson University, and I've been on this journey just of pursuing a lot of education because I think I'm a glutton for punishment. But after college, went on to get my master's at the University of Nebraska, and for the last 5 years, I've been at Brandeis University, which is just outside of the Boston area, but with the pandemic, ended up coming back to Wichita to hang with my awesome fam. Kind of an unexpected little blip there, but it's also been a blessing in a lot of ways.
Before we get further down the road, I wanted to take just a little side trip. For those of you who are moms or potential moms, I think that it is our tendency as mothers to default, and understandably, as we're raising our daughters, to raise them like us. You know, their likes, their dislikes, we kind of assume that's who they are. We try to kind of mold them into who we are because that's what we know. But Allie and I were wired very differently from the beginning, and I was more of a fussy, frou-frou, very disorganized individual, and Allie's the most responsible person in our fammy.
Guys, for real, like, I would get the family up in the morning.
It's true.
I was the alarm. Age 7.
She now locks all the doors. Mom, Dad, lock the doors. But also, kind of on a funny note with that, Allie was in sweatpants till about junior high.
Could always hear me coming.
Yeah. Yeah, they were the parachute material, and she had a reversible vest. That one year for school, I didn't realize when it was school pictures that she wore the vest one way for the fall pictures,
Blue.
and she switched it around for the spring pictures.
Green.
So, yeah.
That's good.
But I am so thankful that I was not able to mold Allie into myself. Because God has uniquely wired her, and now as I'm seeing her grow and develop as a young woman, it makes total sense why he shaped and molded her the way that he did. And I am so grateful that she had a strong enough personality that she, respectfully so, but she marched to her own drum beat. Literally, she was on the Mays High drum line. She played the bass drum. But anyway, so I just wanted to encourage you, if that is something that you have encountered as a mother, to allow God to show you the path to take your child down. And you'll mess up. I did. But prayer covers over a lot of things. Another kind of funny story, when Allie was a little girl, we had a birthday party for her, and I knew that one of the little girls was very excited to bring a Barbie doll. And that was the gift she was going to give Allie, and I knew Allie did not like Barbie dolls. So I thought, I would just kind of spare the embarrassment and the hurt, so I just kind of thought I would, prepare Allie. And I said, Allie, if somebody would happen to bring you a Barbie doll as a gift, what do you tell them?
And her response, you want to tell them?
No, thank you.
Yeah, that was her response. And I said, well, no. And fortunately, she didn't know, there were no hurt feelings. She handled it. She was more of a Build-A-Bear kind of gal. But anyway, I say all of that to now that I'm sitting here next to my daughter, and I just, how God unfolds your children's lives and just being sensitive and discerning to that. But I wanted to, Allie to share now just a little bit about how after she finished college, her undergraduate, how God led you from that point on, how doors opened and how they closed, and how you navigated that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming to the end of my college years, sorry about that, I really did not have a very clear sense of the direction that I wanted to go in, and just had kind of been in a period of unknowns, but was thinking about, kind of possibilities, and decided to pursue this potential of grad school in history, of all things. And so it kind of started as this process of me just applying to a bunch of places and essentially saying, God, this is in your hands. If this is something that you want me to pursue, then open the doors that you have for me. And what ended up happening was, I applied several different places, and there were two in particular in mind that seemed like they were just going to be awesome, and that was KU and Indiana. And I had lots of friends and family and connections in both of those areas, and kind of was like banking on this experience. But those were the very first places that I got rejected from as I was going through this kind of waiting process. And maybe some of you have experienced that intense sort of grad school process. But kind of at the very last minute of this application procedure, I ended up applying to the University of Nebraska, like just out of nowhere. Had never been to Nebraska, weirdly, though it's like our neighbors to the north. But just went ahead and did that on a whim, and that was the place that I got into, like the best of the options, and it was a place where I didn't know anyone, but it was just God's provision that I could see through that, because it was after kind of going ahead and saying yes to this option that I just saw God's extraordinary provision with, teaching assistantships and fellowships that, like, right after I said yes, they were like, here, let's fully fund your experience. So it was just really amazing. Yeah, so that was cool.
Cindy.
Sorry, I told Lori to tell me if I was clinking. Thank you. So another cool part about this experience of Nebraska, when we went, it was kind of late in the game as far as housing. So could you share with them a little bit about our housing and our beloved friend, we call him Apartment Dave.
Yes, Apartment Dave, not rest his soul.
Yeah,
I don't know why I said that. He's alive. Bless his soul. No, but it was, we went to Nebraska, again, never having gone there, and just started this process of looking for apartments in the summer before I was supposed to be going, and realized as soon as we got there, like, oh, I'm late to the game. Everything was kind of snapped up. There were some apartments that were like way far away, but it was just not seeming super convenient. But toward the very last place that we ended up kind of stumbling across, went into this this really cool building close to campus, and this guy, Apartment Dave, he just like showed us this beautiful, awesome place that seemed just like swell. So we're getting excited throughout. And right at the end of that experience, he's like, guys, I should tell you, I've already had this gal come and look at this. It's basically spoken for. So I just don't want to get your hopes up that this is already claimed. So we ended up leaving pretty bummed and driving back to Wichita, just thinking like, okay, got to figure out next steps here. And get a call from Apartment Dave, and he's just the best.
On the drive back.
Yeah, on the drive back. And he just, like, for no reason really, reached out to everybody that he knew who had apartments in that area, and just, contacted all of them. And sure enough, in that same building, there was a place that was even cheaper, and like just, amazing gift of an apartment that I got to enjoy for 2 years. And I just think about God's provision, and even in the things that, are small, but like big because it's where you're living, the ways that he has just shown up and blessed in those experiences.
Yeah, one of the cool things that Allie and I have been able to do together, ever since really she was a little girl, was her first days of school, and then when she started going to higher education, I would make all of these campus visits with her. And before we would start down the path, we would be in the hotel room or wherever it was that we happened to be, and we would just pray, Lord, just open the door wherever you see fit. And it has been so beautiful to watch him open those doors before us in ways that you could not have ever anticipated. So we've done this together. I many times moved her in, put furniture together, the whole 9 yards. But there had been a couple of specific verses that I had prayed for Allie, especially when she was going into higher education. And one of them was John 16:13, that the Spirit of truth would lead you into all truth. And the other one was Psalm 51:6, that you would desire truth in your innermost parts. These verses, particularly because she was going in the realm of academia, and that's a lot of human intellect, and a lot of times God will get scooted out of the picture. So those were two particular verses that I prayed for Allie. So after she left Nebraska with the master's program, she moved on and was doing some college visits, and one of them that she actually ended up going to was Brandeis University. And Brandeis is a Jewish institution, and it's on the East Coast. It's in Massachusetts. So we did this visit together, and we had gone to campus. She was going to do the campus tour, and she and I went together, and we climbed up. The whole campus is uphill. The whole campus is rough. But we got at the top of the hill, and we sat down and we prayed together before she did her tour. And as a mom, I of course want her to go where God has called her to go, no matter what, no matter where that is. But for her to go what felt like the other side of, the United States, she would be all alone. We didn't know anybody out on the East Coast. And also, it's a very liberal area of the United States. So all of those things as a mother were unsettling to me. So while Allie was on her campus tour, I went inside the student center, and like I said, this is a Jewish institution. So this is kind of fascinating how this plays in. But I was sitting in the campus center, and I've been praying throughout the day, Lord, just show her where you want her to be, help us to have peace. I look over, and Brandeis has like their school crest. And it caught my attention, and it had words that went around the crest. And it was the scripture, truth in my innermost parts. And that is from King David in the Psalms. And that had been one of the prayers that I had prayed for Allie. And I just knew, I think that was a confirmation for me that God was saying, no matter where I place her, I'm there, and my truth is there. So that was just a great comfort to me. So I want Allie to share a little bit about getting connected in Brandeis and just the role of finding a church and finding a community and what that looked like, and how easy or difficult that was.
Yeah, and this really gets kind of to the heart of what I want to say tonight, which is just the significance of community and just building those relationships anywhere. Honestly, my experience in Massachusetts was a blessing in so many ways, but it was also extraordinarily hard. Just getting out there, like we said, where didn't know anybody else, and like driving 5 miles can take an hour easily. So like, with your friends being kind of spread out, I was with different people in this program, but it was really hard to like just get together with people and kind of getting planted in a church. Actually, she had checked out several churches beforehand, and kind of a funny story of like, they had helped me move out, bless them. They have helped me move so many times. But, and we get there, and she'd found this church, so we drive to the church, realize it's in a house, and we're like 15 minutes late. So we're like, we gotta bail, we gotta find somewhere else. We're not walking in this place, this kind of way. So ended up going to like the second church on her list, and just were like overwhelmed by the love of that community there. It was actually like a satellite church, and I ended up later shifting to the main campus of the church, but a total blessing and a fluke of our own like tardiness. Lord works in mysterious ways. But going out to New England, it was awesome. Like, it's a beautiful place of the world. And getting to do that, getting to go to school out there, that was all positive, but really, it took me so long to get connected, and it was really at the end of my second year out there that I can distinctly remember. I have the writing somewhere, just writing, Lord, I want the next year to be different. It was coming to the close of this time, and I had several friends that I had made in that program, but that were all leaving. And it had just been a real struggle to get plugged in. I tried some different groups and things, but I just felt that craving in my soul for community, for connecting with people, and maybe you're kind of like me, where you're like, I'm independent and self-sufficient, so you can go for a really long time, doing your own thing. But once I was aware that like I cannot continue in this same vein for the next however long I'm out here. So I kind of wrote those words down, and coming at the end of my second year, which was just kind of a challenging time where you have these intense exams going on, and my apartment, my lovely apartment that we'd moved into out there, had throughout the entire building this horrible infestation of mice. I mean, like, horrible. And if you know me, like, when I was a kid, I had sticky hands all the time, but I like took a real about turn, and I'm a massive germaphobe. It's been super fun for you living with me in COVID times. But so I was like, I could not sleep at night. I'd hear their little feet in the ceiling. Guys, for real, one time, this is so disturbing to me, but there was this vent above my shower, and a mouse dropped out of the vent onto my bathroom floor and ran away, and I never saw it again. Somewhere in my apartment. For real, it was the most disturbing thing. So all of that is going on. I'm like, I have got to get out of here. 100% I'm not staying in this dumb apartment for another year. And again, had this process of like, Lord, where do you want me to go? It's really hard to find apartments out there, and it was just another season of like, man, I don't know, where to move. There's just not a lot open. And we actually had this time of praying together. I was back with my family in the summer, visiting again, and I distinctly remember her praying, God, would you put another Christian in the building that you place her in? So we, kind of moving forward then, I start this third year of school with this kind of idea in my mind that I'm going to work really hard to build this community there. And after trying, again, several different small groups.
Can you, share about going to the, putting yourself in retreat, putting yourself out there.
Guys, wow. It's awkward, right? And I love us. We're church folk. We're great, but also we're awkward too. And it takes a lot of effort. I don't know if, like, for some of you, this is, maybe this is your first time here, but, like, you are taking a step of faith for real. And that actually brings me to my verse, which is Luke 16:10, that is, he who is faithful in a very little thing is faithful in much. And as I was starting that third year, that really became my verse. I just kind of stumbled across it. But he who is faithful in a very little thing is faithful in much. And I'd been praying for this community, for this connection, and I just decided, I'm going to be faithful in the little ways that I can with the prayer, with stepping out into really uncomfortable situations of retreats where I know no one, sleeping in a cabin with a bunch of weirdos, quite frankly, but also they're great. They're my friends now. It works. But no, I mean, like it's just uncomfortable. And, like, especially if you're kind of introverted, it takes a lot of effort to talk. Sometimes it feels like you are just going absolutely nowhere, but I would just encourage you all to keep taking those steps forward. If it feels really uncomfortable right now and you're like, this is not working at all, and you feel like you're in a room of weirdos, maybe you are, but they're great.
You're in the right place.
That's exactly right. But anyways, so she had prayed specifically, let there be another Christian person in her building. And I had gone and checked out this other small group, and I was like, man, this gal who is leading the group looks so familiar to me. Why does she look so familiar to me? And I asked her, I was like, hey, where do you live? And do you live in, my address at the time? She was like, yeah. Where do you live? And I was like, I live there too. What floor do you live on? She literally lived 2 doors down from me in my building. And it was just extraordinary, thinking back on this prayer. And she became, one of my closest friends out there into that year. But just, again, seeing God's extraordinary provision and the gift of a mother who prays so fervently for her child. But yeah.
Yeah, and Allie had done something similar when she was in Nebraska as well. I mean, I think that's the thing that I admire about her tenacity, and like what she said, just encourage you if you are at a place where you just feel like this is not working, to not give up. I think a lot of times that's where that discouragement could be right on the cusp of what God wants to do. But it does take time, and I think that's just the honest reality of that situation. She found, and you share a little bit about your group in Nebraska, the church that you attended there in your small group.
Yeah, so a similar thing where I had started going to a church out there and had gone to, like, some young adult things. I was like, it's okay, but I felt like I wasn't getting a ton out of it because, it's about me. But so I had gone, though, and there was this night that they were just kind of announcing, hey, we've got this woman in the church who's looking to really lead this small group and really have kind of a mentorship thing. And I was like, well, I'll try it. That sounds cool. And just signed up for this and had just this beautiful mentor for those 2 years that I was there in a small group. That just was one of the most valuable experiences to me. So I would encourage you, if there's like anything that's kind of been needling at you or whatever, to take advantage of that. But it's a beautiful thing to receive an invitation. That's one of the things I've learned. I think a lot of times it's about getting uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. But if you're in a position where you can extend an invitation, just even for something small, that's like amazing to receive if that's something you've been just waiting for.
Yeah, that's a real lifeline. And if you could share now what you're doing. So her church in Massachusetts, which she does, she has Zoom Bible studies and whatnot, but can you just share kind of what you're doing with that?
Yeah, Yeah, so the same small group that I had stumbled into after many others, where the girl was living down the hall from me, they actually asked me back in the fall to step into leadership with that small group. So I've been helping lead with a group of other folks since the early fall. But that has just been, again, an extraordinary blessing. Of course, it's all over Zoom and doing that, but it's been a gift, and those friends that I made through that experience and through those awkward retreats, I still get to chat with and do that. And it's, I think every time that I see them and think about them, I think about the prayer and just the provision through those really 3 years of kind of struggling to get planted and rooted in that place.
They even did a surprise birthday party for her. They sent gifts to me to hold, and then they Zoomed together and had a surprise party for her, which was just very, very dear. We didn't really get to tell when you relocated, where it was you got to relocate to, because I just think that's one of the really cool parts of the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, so went from my mouse hole dump. Actually, it was a really nice building. I shouldn't say that, but it was a dump because the mice were terrorizing me. But anyway, so yeah, kind of came across this place really suddenly that is in the most beautiful historic town in New England called Lexington, Massachusetts, and ended up going there. It was walking distance to the main campus of my church, so I'd been attending the satellite, but then started going to that main campus and got to be in this place where the Revolutionary War started, and it was just like Gilmore Girls, After the mice.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The Lord uses mysterious things. And it's right next to Concord, Massachusetts, which is where Louisa May Alcott, all of that was there. So it's been a treat as her parents to be able to go and visit her, and again, just to see how God has blessed her obedience. Because when she was talking about the rejections that she received early on, how that was really hard. Did you tell about Indiana, how many rejections you got from them?
I've gotten 5 rejections from Indiana, I think, because they rejected me the first time that I applied there for my master's twice. I got 1 rejection letter, and then they sent me a second just to really confirm it. Not you. But then I tried again, weirdly, when I was applying for PhD programs, and again got rejected for that. But I'd also applied for a conference there and got rejected from that. So Indiana does not want me. They are on my list. But it was the places that I felt these were easy kind of picks, that I had family, I had friends in Indiana, family and friends in Kansas, but ended up going places that I never would have expected or had been to.
And at Brandeis, here's the other sweet part of that Brandeis also fully funded her whole education. So she is actually still currently being paid for that, and you can share a little bit about what you do. She's been doing lectures online, and tell them what you are lecturing on.
Yeah, so I've lectured on a few different things, but I teach older folks who want to continue their education. So one that I planned before the pandemic, so keep that in mind, but was on the history of the last major smallpox epidemic in the U.S. Wow. It just ended up being a little too on the nose, I think. But no, it was a great experience. And then right now I've been teaching a course on the history of eugenics, scientific racism. And yeah, those have just been extraordinary, meaningful experiences for me that I never would have anticipated that I'd be teaching the elderly over, video conferencing. That's just, it wasn't in the plan, but it's been great.
So Allie, I know we just have a few more minutes, but I wanted you to share just a little bit about how you navigate being a single woman. I told her. I always break out into single ladies. I won't do it. But how you have navigated.
She does the dance.
Not well, mind you. Not well. But how has. They might throw me out. But what has it been like being a single woman? And now that all of your close high school friends are married and starting families, and your college friends are on that same path. So if you could share just a little bit what that's been like, just for you personally.
Yeah, I think that's probably something on a lot of people's minds when they're like in their 20s, 30s, and a lot of their friends, maybe you are married or a lot of your friends are and you're the single one. But I think for me, I think the kind of easy trap to fall into is really thinking, well, I'm at such a different kind of experience or stage of life right now if you're kind of the single holdout from the rest of your friends. But, again, I would just encourage, like, married and single people and friends, like, they need each other. And it is still a wonderful gift to have those friends. But I think it is easy to kind of fall in that trap of feeling like you are just living this totally different sort of experience, and whatever it is that you're kind of waiting for, whether that's kind of like in my sort of journey of like stepping into unknown things with the hopes that maybe there's a job at the end, or maybe for you it is that real desire just to get married and it hasn't happened yet. I believe that God's plan is extraordinary, and that I have seen His provision carry me through all these different places and times, and quite frankly, I'm in a period of unknown again. But I believe that what He has is so good, whether that is, whatever it is, and if marriage stuff or job stuff is kind of what's been laying on your heart. I just believe that there's blessings for you in really unexpected ways.
Also, maybe share a little bit about, you had talked about with community and reaching out to people, and maybe the importance of really pursuing that or not. I think sometimes it's a little easy to bail in our day and age. You can just send a text, I don't feel up to it. Maybe share a little bit about, just the importance of following through in relationships.
Yeah, I think, something that I've discovered both personally and just having spent a lot of time around kind of young adults is that it is so easy and tempting to, when you just don't feel like it, to flake out on something, whether that is, meeting up maybe with a friend that you kind of had tentative plans, or going, you're like, well, my small group isn't really gonna, miss me, it's fine. And that temptation pulls so strongly, but I would just encourage, my generation and all of us to resist that temptation to flake out, because I think that we're missing out on so much when we feel that pull away, that, just continuing to pursue each other in these really meaningful relationships. And I actually have a verse. Probably a lot of you are familiar with it, but I think when I think about community, this is really the one that comes to mind, and that is Hebrews 10:24-25. It says, "Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up on meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up on meeting together. I just think that that's so powerful, and I've been so blessed by community, by people, and I think I've lived in that lie of sort of the self-sufficiency and independence, but our craving for community is good, and it leads us, I think, to wonderful things.
Yeah.